Okay, great. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of an update about what we've been doing about geology training. Of course, it goes without saying that crew training in geology, including lunar science and including field methods, is really going to be important for successful Artemis missions. And what I want to do today is talk to you a little bit about what we've done over the past year, but also talk about where we're going, some of our plans and some of the next steps. But the exciting thing, and Noah already mentioned it a little bit, is that we are now providing training in geology and in lunar science to crew members for Artemis missions, crew members that are going to be going to cislunar space. Super exciting. Next slide, please. So a little bit of more background. First of all, crew training from planning to implementation is a cross-agency and a multi-institutional effort, and it also takes a long time. And I'd like to shout out to all of my colleagues, both those that are participating in putting together the geology material and the field material, but also across other organizations in NASA that have been helping out with this. And in particular, this has been going on for some time, and I'd like to do a shout out to Dean Epler, who in a way jump-started this program about 15 years ago. Secondly, we know that Artemis science achieved through lunar science traverses is going to be hard. The operational burden is really high, both physically and mentally. So we need to make sure, in order to have both safe EVAs, but also to be able to achieve our science objectives, that the crew member is really well trained in geology and their EVA skills and their field skills, so that they've got that muscle memory and they've got the confidence in their geological skills to be able to achieve what they need to achieve. So we've been doing this now for some time, and we've built a long-term plan, and we've been building relationships, and we have been actually delivering training to the crew office and to the exploration community for about 15 years, actually more than 15 years. And again, this is because we treat geology as like learning a language. It just takes time and repeated exposure. And we start with incoming astronaut classes. But we also do this in conjunction with and collaboration with our friends in the Flight Operations Directorate, specifically the EVA trainers and the crew training office, as well as with the crew office. And what's exciting for me is that they're all excited about learning science themselves, number one, and number two, they all acknowledge the importance of integrated training and skill development across both science and operations. Next slide, please. So I've showed this slide before, and I'm going to show it again, but we have developed a 3-phase training program, starting with incoming astronaut classes and culminating with assigned crew. And if we can go to the next slide. What's really exciting in the past year is that we've actually conducted training across all 3 phases. We finished up the astronaut class, the 2021 class. We've spent a lot of time training crew members who aren't assigned to crews yet, and then we've started Artemis training. So I'm going to talk about each one of these chunks in succession. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So our incoming astronaut class training. Again, we've been doing this now. This is the 4th class that we've done this with, starting in 2009. It's a 2-year program. We have a week in the classroom and a week in the field in each of those 2 years. In 2022, we started training this class. They're called the Flies. They're the 23rd class. We started training them with a crash course in geology. Then we take them out into the field in northern New Mexico, and we make them map and observe and understand fundamental field principles. We also fold in expeditionary components. Last year, we finished up the training with more geology, building on the base. We introduced some planetary science, sample science, the importance of sample curation, and then we took them out into the field in northern Arizona for 6 days, including a capstone exercise where they had to build a map, they had to conduct traverses, they had to make observations, they had to interpret their observations and be able to say something about why they did what they did. And some of the photographs we see on the bottom are from the Flies field expedition. Next slide, please. So phase 2, sort of maintaining the skills, building on the proficiency that we provide them in their incoming astronaut candidacy. We have spent a lot of time and energy. We were challenged, in fact, by the crew office Reed Weissman said, I want to learn about the moon. I want to be able to go down the hallway and talk to my colleagues about the moon. So we developed a week-long class called Lunar Fundamentals. We've now delivered it twice to crew members that are unassigned, as well as other members of the Artemis community. Images on the right-hand side are some taken from some of those classes. We have other opportunities both in the testing facility, like the Nutribuoyancy Lab, the Rock Yard, where crew members learn a little bit of science in addition to their operational skills. Of course, they participate in the integrated testing as well. And then some of our partners, like ESA, our international partners, provide field training opportunities, and we've had crew members participate in those as well. The next slide, please. So, okay, this is the exciting part, is that assigned crew training. So we are training the Artemis II crew. We've had a chance to provide the lunar fundamentals to them so that they've begun to learn about the outstanding science questions about the moon, some context about what we know about the moon, introduction to the major geologic processes, the lunar environment, the importance of samples, what about those volatiles, as well as new lunar data sets that were not around in 1970. And finally, we had the opportunity to take the part of the Artemis II crew out into the field last summer with Gordon Osinski. We went up to Kamastoston Impact Crater so that the crew members were able to see an impact crater in the feldspathic highlands of the Earth. This summer, we're taking them to the highlands of Iceland. Next slide, please. And then Artemis 3, we don't have a crew yet, but we're getting ready. We are building out our training materials, which includes advanced material about lunar processes and the environments and sample science. And that content is in review. We are building out our training objectives for the field and how that combines with the EVA skills. We are building out the field portfolio, including the plans and the products and the field objectives. And the logistics and making sure that those map to the skills. We have to work really closely with the crew training office and the EVA trainers and the crew office on this to make sure that they understand why we're doing what we're doing and how it fits into the greater trajectory of crew training. And finally, we are leveraging our crew Earth observations and our protocols for both Artemis II and Artemis III orbital observations. Next slide, please. And I think this is my last slide. So the other part of this, and it's become increasingly obvious why this is really important, is we provide training to the Artemis community across the science and management and engineering and operations communities. And we have delivered 2 of our Lunar Fundamentals classes where we've had flight directors and other members of the flight ops community. Then we have been doing this Geology 101, which is a field class. We take managers and engineers and flight operations staff out into the northern Arizona desert. We make them map for a couple of days. This has been really successful about talking about what it means to do surface operations. And we've had associate administrators. We have had both the Artemis 2 and 3 mission managers, many flight directors, program managers, suit and tool engineers, and software developers, and other operations staff and human factors engineers across the board have integrated discussions in the field about doing surface operations. And we've also been participating in these joint EVA tests. Sarah Noble mentioned the just completed Jet 5 test. This has been a great opportunity for both the community as well as the crew to talk about integrated operations similar to what we might be doing on the moon. So in terms of summary then, we've been, there's a big heat map to fill, but we've been working at it now for some time. And so we're steadily filling in and gaining advocacy about geology and planetary science training, both in the crew office as well as in the greater Artemis community. And with that, I'd like to say thank you.